Hi everyone, welcome to my scope this afternoon that I talked about this morning that I was going to do. And welcome. Thank you for coming in. Oh, I recognize some friends, yay. Thank you for joining. If you think that this topic of of classroom management might be of interest, hey, how are you? Let me know. And I would like to do more things around classroom management. But welcome. I want to take a chance to just welcome everybody as they come in and say hello. And replay viewers, welcome to all of you. And if you think that, again, this topic of classroom management might be something that's helpful to colleagues that you know, particularly new teachers and pre-service teachers, please be sure to share it out to your followers. That would be great. Oh, and thank you for the hearts. Thank you so much. Now, for those of you that don't know me, as I welcome some of you in, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. Oh, thank you, Dima, for inviting followers. Yay! I am a former school principal, and I became an educational consultant some time ago. And I decided to embrace my passion as an educational consultant, which was to support and mentor new teachers. As a principal, I probably hired over 100 new teachers, friends, in the 19 years that I spent as a principal. And part of that was because I worked in places where there was a lot of poverty, high ELL students. And so sadly, there was kind of like a revolving door. Oh, thank you for the hearts. I appreciate that. Hey, Misty. And so when I left the principalship, I decided that I had all this passion to support the hundreds of new teachers that I had either hired or seen from my colleagues. And I really decided to place my work in that area. And I've been listening a lot to some really powerful periscopers here that actually aren't educators. But they've been talking about this, friends, and I just want to share this really quickly. They've been talking about staying in our lanes. Oh, and thank you for the hearts. Staying in the lane, meaning that I'm not a chef, so I'm not going to periscope or write about cooking, okay? But I do have a passion for supporting new teachers. Hi, Stacy. I did spend a tremendous amount of time working with new teachers. I did work as not only a principal, but years earlier as a teacher. And I really believe that in order for us to be of service, we need to stay in our lane. So my lane, for those of you that don't know me, again, is to support and mentor new teachers. And I do that in a number of different ways. But one of the ways that I'm doing it is through a chat I developed called New Teacher Chat. And then secondly, friends, around the chat are a lot of resources, but I'm also an adjunct professor. So I work with new and pre-service teachers, mostly pre-service teachers. Now, some of them might be actual teachers in a preschool, but they're working to get their Bachelor of Science degree so they can go into the classroom at maybe the private school or the public school and move out of the spots that they're in currently. So that's a little bit about me. And so what I wanted to do as we begin to ramp up for back to school is do some periscopes around areas that I know are really important for new teachers. And so let me know if this is helpful to you, and I would really appreciate that. Share in the comments, and I can make sure that I really stay in my lane and focus on those areas that I know new teachers could benefit from without making my periscopes like 30 minutes long. So I want to make sure that we get to the heart of the matter. So today I want to talk a little bit about classroom management. And classroom management, as those of you probably know that are educators, is a really tough piece for a new teacher. And it can really make or break you. Yes, new teachers will benefit from this tremendously. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much, Kim. Let me know. Keep me posted. I'm a learner. I always want to make things better, but I really feel that our new teacher community needs a lot of support. But when I say that, I want them to get support that's like a mentoring piece, right? We're coming alongside. We're not being too firm in terms of saying you should, but offering mentorships, offering ideas. So thank you, Kim, for that. So classroom management is important, but classroom management is all-encompassing, right? I could go on for 60 days about classroom management, but I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to share a little bit here with you. And probably about, let's say 8 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops. So because I believe that classroom management is such an integral part of preparing when you're a new teacher and going back to school, I want to share 5 tips with you. Now, a few years ago, I did a series on edutopia.org because I am a blogger and an author, and I'm not going to go into all the details about who I am. You can look me up. But I did a series called the New Teacher Academy, and I came up with this series. And I came up with the series based on the things that I had observed new teachers to struggle with. And so the very first one in the New Teacher Academy, and you can Google New Teacher Academy and see all the posts, but I'll share with you where you can find them. You can go to lisadabbs.com and put in the search engine New Teacher Academy, and you'll see all the different academy pieces that I'm going to be talking about in the next few days. But I started this series with the intent of supporting new teachers, particularly going back to school. So let's talk a little bit about classroom management and the 5 tips. So some of them might seem familiar to you, some of them might seem a little simplistic, but let's just start. So the first one is a really simple one. Realize you need a plan. Now, I can't tell you how many new teachers I observed in the years I was a principal, and how many new teachers I would go into their classrooms, and it was very obvious that there wasn't a plan. So it's really important to realize you need a plan. And as you look at that tip number 1, realizing you need a plan, you need to decide, what is it that works for you? There are so many areas you can go into. I'm not going to name all the people that have all of these ideas for classroom management, but you need to decide that you need a plan, and then what is going to work for you. And then along with that, I want you to connect with a mentor, okay? So you realize you have a plan and connect with a mentor. That's tip number 1, to begin to develop your classroom management plan, okay? Tip number 2, as you're working on developing that plan and you're writing things up and you're developing, which we're going to go back to in a little bit, if you don't like something, tip number 2, throw it in the dumpster. Get rid of it. For example, you've met with the mentor, you've developed your plan, you're in the classroom, you start to use it, and it's not working. Okay, that doesn't mean you keep using it. You throw it in the dumpster, go back to ground zero, go back to the basics again, and come up with, I'm going to say it, another plan. And that's okay. Yes, Fabiana, absolutely, flexibility. Don't get locked into something because, let's just say, your mentor, who might be well-meaning, says, oh, you need to stay with it for 3 weeks or 3 years or 3 months. No. Throw it in the dumpster, tip number 2, and come back to something else that might be working for you. Okay, so tip number 1, realize you have a plan and work with a mentor. Tip number 2, if that plan's not working, then you're going to throw it in the dumpster, and it might be stressful, but you're going to come back to ground zero and start again. Okay, tip number 3, once you have that plan and you're really liking it, so say you've been into a couple of weeks and you like your plan, what I want you to do, tip number 3, is be consistent. Yes, Misty, I love that. Sometimes you have to change it day to day. Okay, but tip number 3, be consistent. So you've come up with the plan and you've decided what you want to do. If you're not consistent, guess what? The plan's not going to work, right? It seems simple, but I can't tell you how many times I would meet with a new teacher. We'd develop a plan that worked for them, that worked for their students. So I'd go into their classroom a few days later, and they were doing something completely different. And again, not because they threw it in the dumpster, but because they lost that consistency. So I need for you to remember that you need to be consistent. Once you have the plan, stay focused on it and be consistent, okay? Number 4, you need to laugh, okay? Now I'm gonna tell you something. When I was a new teacher many years ago, I used to laugh a lot. Now I still do. But you know, I got a lot of flack for that. The more experienced teachers would say, oh, you laugh too much. You're laughing too much. The kids aren't going to like it. You know what? That's not true. We need to laugh with our students. We need to laugh at ourselves. And we need to be able to laugh when things don't go exactly as we want them to be. So in that laughing comes the ability to take a breath and say, it's okay. It didn't go exactly how I wanted to go. I'll try that again. I'll try something along that same line of consistency tomorrow. But the more you laugh with students, the more they see you laugh, the better you're going to be at developing that management, at developing that environment, at developing that community. So you need to laugh. So tip number 4 is you need to laugh. And then lastly, as you've developed this classroom management plan with the mentor, you have maybe thrown it in the dumpster if it didn't work, but then you finally come back to it and you're consistent with it day after day. You laugh about things that go wrong. You laugh with your students, but you come back again to be consistent. You ask for help. So as a principal, I would go in and I would observe my teachers. And weeks before I would say, let me know if you need help. Let me know if the mentor you have isn't working for you. Let me know if your teammates aren't working with you. Let me know if it's not gelling. I'd go into their classroom friends and it wasn't working. It clearly wasn't working. So I would say, is there a reason why you didn't ask for help? Now, I understand that from the perspective of a new teacher looking at a principal, it's scary, friends. It's scary because you think that if I ask my principal for help, I might get let go. But if that's the case, if you really feel that way as a new teacher, then ask your mentor for help. Ask a teammate for help. Ask a university professor for help. Ask another colleague that you need for help. Oh, thank you, Mark. Ask for help. I see this, friends, as the biggest issue as to why new teachers don't thrive. And I'm going to tell you something very quickly. On Twitter and other social media places where I go, I'm very active on social media. I see people writing this: new teacher survival kit, new teacher tips for surviving, 100 ways for new teachers to survive. And I'm going to tell you something. Survive is not in my vocabulary. It's not in my vocabulary for my personal work, and it's not in my vocabulary as I work with my pre-service teachers or new teachers. I want new teachers to thrive. And the way you're going to thrive is to ask for help. You're going to test out this classroom management plan. You're going to ask for help. You're going to laugh about it and figure out that it didn't go exactly as planned. You're going to ask for help. In that asking for help, you're going to have an opportunity to get some feedback. You have to be able to ask for help to develop an ability to have feedback so that you can see where things went well or where things didn't go exactly as you had planned. But friends, I want you to encourage the new teachers that you know, the new teachers that you work with, oh, and thank you for the hearts, to ask for help. It's a huge piece. Now, as we look at classroom management, I want to add to the 5 tips that I've given you. When you look at your classroom design, this is going to be critical to how you're able to manage your classroom and the classroom environment. If the classroom setup, if the classroom design isn't one that allows for flexible seating, which I'm going to talk about on another day, flexible movement, for students to move around, for you to move around, then it's not going to be supportive for you. So at the foundation of your classroom management plan, I want you to add design. So classroom management and design go hand in hand. They're super critical to making sure that the way that you manage your classroom is going to be supportive. If your classroom is designed in a way that is from the 1950s, then it's not going to work. What I mean by that is rows of seats lined up. That is not the way you're going to get the best benefit of your hard work as a new teacher, of your hard work developing your classroom management plan. Go for flexible seating, areas where students can stand up, walk around, a tech corner, a reading corner, a place where they can sit in groups, a place where they can sit on the floor. And I'm not going to talk too much more about that because I'm going to do another scope on flexible seating and classroom design. But I want you to remember that classroom management is the key. If you have a strong classroom management plan, then everything else is going to flow. And lastly, one of the things that you can do as you're developing your classroom management is get some ideas from your students. The morning meeting, which I love, and I've done some blog posts about it on lisadabs.com, so you could check out morning meeting. You can have children work with you, students work with you on developing the classroom management plan. Now, you might already have a really strong focus, a really strong structure, or maybe it's just a skeleton, but invite the kids in. Do a classroom meeting, which I'll talk about at another scope, and let them help you to develop the classroom management tool. I hope that these tips have been helpful for you. I didn't go into a lot of detail. I will at another time, but I really want to make sure that as we start back to school, that new teachers feel supported. Now, there's different spots that you can find me. So if you Google lisadabs.com and you go to my site, you're going to find a lot of different areas where you can get support. I have a YouTube channel, I have an Instagram, I have a Google Plus community, I have a Facebook community, and I actually have a book, Shameful Self-Promotion, right? But I have a book that I've written on standing in the gap. Standing in the gap means that you support where others don't have support. You fill in where others don't have it. And if you go to Amazon, you can find my book, Standing in the Gap, which has a lot of tips for classroom management and many of the other things I'm going to be talking about in my upcoming scopes. And lastly, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a webinar called the New Teacher Toolkit. And in the New Teacher Toolkit, I'm going to be sharing 5 teaching tools and 5 digital tools to support new teachers as they start in their back to school time. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. Let me know what else you might need. Because this posts to Twitter, I would love for your comments. Thank you for the hearts so much about what you think I need to do more of. I know that we can go into huge detail about classroom management, but looking at the time, I don't want the scope to be a 35-minute scope. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to doing more of these back to school scopes. Look for me to be doing them all throughout this week and next week and upcoming. And remember, every other Wednesday on the first and third Wednesday of the month, come and join me at New Teacher Chat. If you Google #NT Chat, you'll find all of the information about the chat and how it was designed by me to support and mentor new teachers. It is also on my website, lisadabs.com. Thank you all for taking the time to come. Thank you so much for the hearts, and thank you for your support.